888-787-5543. Now back to Relationship Roundtable with Steve, Calvin, Trey, and Scott.
6:32 is where we stand. We're going to be here till the top of the hour. Great to have you along on this Sunday as we wrap up this Thanksgiving weekend. Trust it was a good one for you and your family, and for those of you that might have found yourselves, maybe cutting the turkey and carving the goods at somebody else's house, moms, dads, whatever. Divorce situations sometimes bring about, I can't say precarious situations. That wouldn't be a good word, would it?
No, that'd be a spot-on word, actually. I think precarious is pretty
all right.
tenuous, precarious.
I want to be positive in this whole scenario. But when it comes down to where do we go? Where do the kiddos go? Do they go with mom? Do they go with dad if the parents are divorced? And we've been talking about that during the course of the night here on Relationship Roundtable. I really would love to hear from Sean. Sean's our engineer in the other room, and he just said, let me tell you guys something. How's this one sound? So, Sean, if you want to get your microphone on there, give us a lowdown, and let's see if we can get the two experts here, our crack attorneys.
All right, the question was, what do you do when someone else inserts themselves into the situation? So the situation, my sister-in-law came down from Minneapolis, and she was going to bring her boyfriend and his 10-year-old son. Of course, being 10 years old, he'd never been to Texas, was really looking forward to the opportunity to come down and visit Dallas. And so the dad and the boy went back and forth with his mom for months, trying to get her to say, yes, he can go, because in Minneapolis, they don't get the whole week off. They only get half of Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So the mom was using as her argument that he was going to miss 3 days of school. So finally, late last week, right before they were supposed to leave to drive down, the mom said, yes, he can go. And then Friday afternoon, when school gets out, she goes to pick him up from school. And the school released the boy to the mom, even though they weren't supposed to. And so then mom had the boy all weekend when she wasn't supposed to, and they were worried that she wouldn't even hand him over to his dad Sunday afternoon when she was supposed to, for fear that he would then at that point leave and drive down here for Thanksgiving.
So it normally wasn't his scheduled possession period. He was trying to get her to go ahead and just switch or something. Is that right?
My understanding was that it was his weekend, and then he was going to have the boy all week. I don't know if that was part of their normal custody schedule or if that was something different.
Right. So if they were going to switch and she agreed to switch and at the end she backed out, there's nothing that anybody can do about that. It's just it's a shame. It disappoints the child. It messes up plans, but it's just meanness, and you're not really working in the child's best interests. But there's nothing that anybody can do if they're following the schedule and they just won't agree to switch. It's just a shame is what it is.
But there is no legal recourse for doing it.
Right.
And I think that's what it came down to was, for whatever reason, she didn't want the boy to come down here with him for the week and the new girlfriend. And She found a way to insert herself into the situation. And the school, even though they weren't supposed to release him on Friday to her, also inserted themselves into it, willingly or not. Right. They put themselves in the situation as well.
So conversely, if she did violate the order, then he can file a petition for enforcement and have her held in contempt. And
then it's, is it worth it to pay the lawyers to go back to court?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, because
you're asking the wrong guys, for Pete's sake.
Well, it really is.
Come on, these are the two attorneys.
The court will order attorney's fees be paid, and it'll teach her a lesson. And if she does it again, then she'll go to jail.
We have a judge in Tarrant County that'll put someone like that in jail for 6 months for one time.
Really, the first time?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
I actually wrote a manual on that back in 2007.
Which court?
233rd.
Wow.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's rare to do it the first time.
And 6 months for missing one child support payment.
Wow.
Yep. And he has the highest compliance rate in the entire state of Texas.
Yeah, I bet he does.
Bill?
Yes, it is.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's pretty tough.
Yeah, Haddock, the associate judge, Judge Diane Haddock, she will put you in jail for 6 months for missing.
Haddock will.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Harris will affirm it. Absolutely.
Wow. Haddock, she's so sweet. She's beautiful. She
is. But I would not want to be on her bad side. She's a great judge. But
wow.
Good for her.
It was actually them, the judges we're talking about, Bill Harris and Diane Haddock in the 233rd in Tarrant County, that wrote this manual. It wasn't just me that wrote it. It was actually several people from Tarrant County that got together and wrote how to enforce court orders.
Well, they didn't write it to have it abused, so good for her.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I like that. And
a little jail therapy.
Many times judges won't jail people the first time when they probably should, because I guarantee you get a taste for the inside of a jailhouse, you don't want to go back.
You're not going back a second time.
No. We have some pretty draconian judges in Tarrant County, I have found. We have judges that... Actually, my ex-wife had a case here a while back where a judge put a lady in jail for not answering a question.
Really?
Really.
Contempt.
Yep. Absolutely direct contempt.
Well, let me get back to Sean then. You just heard Steve and Trey going back and forth on that. So this isn't anything to horse around with. As a result of that, even though it's in Minnesota, what is the aftermath of this whole scenario, not legally, but between the mom and the dad?
I'm not sure, because my sister-in-law just left yesterday afternoon to go back. The boy and his son ended up not coming down, and I know the son was very disappointed because he was very excited about the chance to come down. And, we had stuff planned. We were, going to the Perot, and we were actually at the 6th Floor Museum on the anniversary on Tuesday. And my son was really excited about being there at 12:30. And we had talked about this. The boy from Minnesota loves to play baseball, so we were looking at all different kinds of things to really get him involved in what was going on and what we were doing as a family all week. And, of course, none of that was able to happen.
And that is what happens when you trade, when you deviate from the schedule. Now, to add a little bit to what Steve said, if you do what we call a Rule 11 agreement and trade, then there is at least some attorney's fees enforcement that you can bring for violating that agreement, but there's not any contempt action.
Yeah, but that doesn't apply if there's no litigation.
Sure. There has to be open. There has to be open litigation to do it. But if it's just two folks that decided to switch because, for whatever reason, and somebody doesn't honor their end of the deal, there's nothing legally you can do about it. Morally, it sounds like she might have shot herself in the foot, though, because if this child winds up having a lot of animosity towards her because of this, you're going to have problems later on.
Yeah, well, that's what I simply, to me, it's just common sense. Never gone through anything like that. But if you're a parent and you want to have your son or daughter's interest in their best interest, I don't understand why you would alienate anybody by doing something like what just took place.
Well, what Sean just described is...
That makes no sense.
Well, it does if you think about it, because she was jealous of the new relationship.
Well, I can understand why she did it, but it's still long-term for the child.
Well, sure.
Makes no sense.
But she's not thinking of the child. She's thinking of herself.
Yeah, that's
the
ridiculous.
problem.
And the son already, I think, wants to go live with dad, so that's not going to help anything.
See, and there you go. Hello, Mom. Don't be so stupid. Go look in the mirror. That's ridiculous. Well, I think the only way that you could even make that right is if Mom buys 2 tickets to the Vikings game this Thursday, because the Cowboys are going from Dallas to Minneapolis. So you say, see, we were going to get you to the Cowboys game last Thursday on Thanksgiving Day. We'll let you go to the Thursday night game, and everybody will be happy. How's that?
Unfortunately, I don't think they watch a lot of football. But on that note, my wife used to work for Salvation Army, and so I did get to go as part of that group of people that goes on the field in 2010 when they lost to the Saints. But Keith Urban was the performer that year, and it was a great experience to see all the kettles out there and everything that the Jones family and the Cowboys do. In fact, Thursday, when we were watching right before the game, they played a really nice Salvation Army ad where Des Bryant went, and there was a family here locally, has 2 boys or 3 boys, huge Cowboys fans, never had an opportunity to go to a game, and he went and met with them, found them, gave them jerseys, brought them to the game, and they showed pictures of his warm-up, pregame warm-up, and brought him out on the field. And the first thing my son said was, Mom, can you go back and work at Salvation Army again so we can do that?
Yeah, right. You got that right. I'll tell you, as long as we're telling stories. And I never told this story because in fairness to the Jones family and what have you, I didn't want them to, or other people to feel, hey, well, you're doing that for Scott, why don't you do it? I had a program that I used to do called Scott's Kids on NBC5 with big brothers, big sisters, and these are kids that came from single-parent families, and a lot of these kids just never had ever seen a football game or been to a real a legitimate Thanksgiving Day meal or whatever. Here's the story. One day we were sitting around talking about different things, and I said, what do you do with it? This is at the old days at the Cowboys, Texas Stadium. And I said, what do you do with those empty suites? And they said, well, hopefully we get them all filled. I said, what do you do with them if there's not one filled on Thanksgiving Day? Would you give that to me? And they said, well, what do you got in mind? I said, I would like to bring about 20 kids from either the Big Brothers, Big Sisters program, Boys and Girls Clubs, and bring them up there. And I will get food from Kroger, from Albertsons, or Tom Thumb, and they have already committed that they'll alternate and give me food for these people. And I said, if you give me the suite, we're going to get kids that have never been to a football game, never seen a Cowboy play, and that type of thing.
That's awesome.
And and my kids, my son and daughter, they were just young. And so my wife, my son, my daughter, who were 8, 9 years old, 10 years old, we were the hostess or the waiters, the waitresses. We served them. And we got the food, and those 3 grocery chains, and Jerry's benevolence in giving us that suite, and we did that for a number of years.
Wow.
And these kids got to come, and I'll never forget my daughter, who was about 7 at the time. All of a sudden, I heard her say, it's okay, don't cry, don't cry. This little girl had some turkey, and she burned her lip on the turkey. She'd never had hot food.
Oh, wow.
Didn't know what hot food was. Yeah. So, I mean, it was a great learning experience for my 2 children, who are now grown. But they, to this day, when Thanksgiving comes around, we talk about the Cowboys, but that was through the generosity of Jerry and the family, and Jerry Jones in the family, and then the three Albertsons, Tom Thumb, and Kroger all gave us food. It was tremendous. And then we had a little goodie bag and they went off like they died and gone to heaven.
And that kind of plays into what Wayne Kostowski was saying in the 4 o'clock hour with the network of community that's in this part of the country and Cowboys fans all over. That helps build that sense of community,
Absolutely.
Especially for these kids that have never had that opportunity. Now they get to go and they become a living, breathing part of that community for the rest of their lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for sharing your story with us, Sean. We appreciate it. We'd love to hear from you, 888-787-5543. We've got the home stretch just around the corner, so stick around as we continue with Steve and Trey. I'm Scott Murray with Relationship Roundtable when we come back. For over 3 decades, Steve